The binary suns of Helios 7 were at their zenith when Marcus Webb spotted the silver contrail cutting across the burnt orange sky. He paused mid-swing, the hydrohammer heavy in his calloused hands, and squinted against the glare. Supply ships weren't due for another 3 weeks, and the trajectory was all wrong for commercial traffic. It's probably lost tourists, he muttered, wiping the sweat from his forehead with a dirt-stained forearm. At 35, Marcus had the weathered look of a man who'd spent the last decade coaxing life from hostile soil. His sun-bleached hair fell past his collar. His lean frame carried the kind of muscle that came from honest labor rather than gym memberships. Marcus. Jaina's voice carried across the moisture fields, melodic despite the urgency. Someone's landing at the house. His stomach dropped. In 6 years of marriage, he'd never told Jaina about the mail-order bride service he'd contacted during his first lonely year on Helios 7. The company had taken his credits, promised delivery within 6 months, then gone silent. After a year of unanswered inquiries, he'd written it off as a scam and moved on with his life. That was before the Corvallis settlement ship had made an emergency landing just outside the terraforming zone. Before he'd met Jaina at the emergency medical station, her purple skin luminescent even under the harsh, portable lights. Her amber eyes filled with determination as she'd helped treat the injured. Before he'd fallen completely, irrevocably in love, Marcus dropped the hammer and ran, his boots kicking up red dust as he sprinted toward the prefab dwelling that had become home. The ship's leak, expensive, unmistakably from the celestial connections fleet had. Already touched down in the clearing beside their moisture condensers, Jaina stood on the porch, one hand shading her eyes, the other resting protectively on the shoulder of their youngest. Syrah, the 3-year-old's purple skin was several shades darker than her mother's, and her small antenna-delicate spirals that would grow more pronounced with age quivered with excitement. Daddy. The twins, Nico and Rin, came barreling around the corner of the house, their matching purple faces split by identical grins. There's a lady in a spaceship. I can see that, Sprouts, Marcus said, catching them both in a quick hug before they could dash toward the vessel. Stay with your mother. The ship's hatch opened with a pneumatic hiss, and Marcus's heart began to hammer in his chest. A figure emerged, silhouetted against the ship's interior lights, and descended the ramp with fluid grace. She was breathtaking. Her skin shimmered with an iridescent blue-green quality, like sunlight on ocean water, and her long hair cascaded down her back in waves of deepest teal. She wore a simple traveling suit that hugged a willowy figure and her large eyes entirely black. Without visible pupils or whites fixed on Marcus, with an expression somewhere between hope and trepidation, Marcus Webb. Her voice was like water over river stones, smooth and musical. I am Vesa of Thalassa. I believe we have an arrangement. Oh no, Marcus breathed. Vesa's eyes, which, he now realized, could somehow convey emotion despite their alien structure, shifted toward Jaina and the children. Her face, already pale, seemed to lose what little color it had. I see, she said quietly. The company said there had been no complications with my contract. They said you were waiting. I was, Marcus said, the words tumbling out. I mean, I did. 2 years ago, but then they told me the ship was lost, that you'd been declared deceased. They refunded my account. I never thought 2 years. Vessa's webbed fingers touched her temple. The navigation system failed. We drifted in cryo-sleep. The company said it was only a minor delay. She looked at the house, at the obvious signs of an established family. They lied. Jaina stepped forward, and Marcus saw the careful way she studied the newcomer. His wife was many things: passionate, protective, brilliant with the children, but she was also fiercely analytical, a trait that had served her well as a xenobiologist before motherhood. You're from Thalassa, Jaina said. It wasn't a question. Vesa nodded, her attention shifting to Marcus's wife. For the first time, Marcus noticed the similarities the way both women held themselves with an unconscious grace. The angle of their cheekbones, even the pattern of slight ridges along their necks. Corvallis, Vesa asked, and there was something new in her voice. Recognition, perhaps? From the northern lakes, Jaina confirmed. Your people and mine share, Daddy. Mama, can we meet the pretty lady? Rin's patience had finally cracked, and both twins were straining against Jaina's grip. Kids, not now, Marcus started. But Sira had already wriggled free and was toddling toward Vesa with the fearless determination of a 3-year-old. Sira. Jaina lunged, but the little girl had already reached the stranger. What happened next made Marcus's breath catch. Sira reached up and took Vesa's hand without hesitation, her small purple fingers wrapping around the larger teal ones. The little girl smiled, her antennae swaying in contentment, and said simply, Auntie. Vesa dropped to her knees, her black eyes shimmering with what might have been tears, though Marcus had no idea if her species could cry. Hello, little one, she whispered, and her voice broke on the words, the twins. Seeing their sister's acceptance, broke free and rushed forward. Within seconds, all 3 children were clustered around Vesa, touching her skin, her hair, chattering excitedly in the way young children did when confronted with something wonderful and new. They've never done this, Jaina said, moving to stand beside Marcus. They're usually terrified of strangers. Even other Corvalli make them shy. Vesa looked up at them, the children now climbing into her lap, as if they'd known her their entire lives. I don't understand, she said. I came here expecting to meet my intended husband. Instead, I find him with a wife and children who treat me like family. The genetic markers, Jaina breathed, her eyes widening. Marcus, Thalassans, and Corvalli diverged from the same ancestor species during the Great Expansion. Our DNA is over 98% compatible. The children can sense it on some level. Marcus watched his children cuddle against a woman who had crossed the stars to marry him, only to find her place already filled. He saw the pain in Vesa's expression, the confusion and hurt warring with the unexpected tenderness she showed his kids. He felt Jaina's hand slip into his, her grip tight with an emotion he couldn't quite name. We should talk, he finally managed. All of us. Inside, where it's cooler. Vesa stood slowly, a twin attached to each hand and Sira perched on her hip as naturally as if she'd carried the child 1,000 times before. I have nowhere else to go, she said softly. The company provided one-way transport. Everything I owned went to pay for the journey. Then you'll stay, Jaina said, and Marcus turned to stare at his wife in shock. She met his gaze steadily. Until we figure this out? There's a guest room. It's small, but thank you, Vesa interrupted, and now those alien eyes definitely held tears. I expected anger, rejection, not kindness. As they walked toward the house, the children still clinging to Vesa, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that his carefully constructed life had just been appended in ways he couldn't begin to fathom. The suns beat down mercilessly. The desert wind carried the scent of mineral dust and growing things. And somewhere in the distance, a sandhawk called its haunting cry. Inside the cool shadows of the prefab, as Jaina prepared refreshments and the children showed Vesa their collection of desert stones, Marcus stood at the window and wondered how one moment could change everything. He'd sent for a bride once, in desperation and loneliness. That woman had finally arrived, 2 years late, to find him happy and whole. So why did looking at her make his heart race the same way Jaina had when they'd first met? And more troubling, why did Jaina keep glancing at Vesa with something that looked suspiciously like fascination in her amber eyes? The afternoon stretched ahead, full of questions that had no easy answers. The evening meal was an exercise in careful politeness. Marcus had grilled sandworm, steaks, one of the few native protein sources that didn't taste like recycled boot leather, while Jaina prepared a salad from their hydroponic garden. Vesa sat at the table with the uncertain posture of someone who knew she was intruding but had no alternative. The children, however, had no such reservations. They'd insisted Vesa sit between them. And now, Nico was explaining in exhaustive detail the difference between red sand and orange sand, while Rin showed her a drawing of what was apparently supposed to be the family, but looked more like colorful stick figures. This one's you, Rin announced, pointing to a blue-green figure she'd added to the side of the paper. You're pretty like the water in Mama's stories. Vessa's hand trembled slightly as she accepted the drawing. Thank you. It's beautiful. Marcus caught Jaina's eye across the table. His wife's expression was thoughtful, that particular look she got when working through a complex problem. He'd learned to recognize it during her research years, the way her antennae would tilt slightly forward. Her amber eyes would narrow, and she'd worry her bottom lip with her teeth. After dinner, as Marcus cleaned up and Vessa helped the children prepare for bedding, another task they'd insisted she'd participate in, Jaina disappeared into their small study. He found her 20 minutes later, hunched over her data tablet, scrolling through genetic databases with fierce concentration. "What are you looking for?" he asked, settling into the chair beside her. "Confirmation of a theory?" Jaina's fingers danced across the screen, pulling up charts and diagrams that meant nothing to Marcus, but clearly fascinated her. "Watch this." She displayed 2 DNA helixes side by side. "This is a standard Corvalli genetic structure. And this," she pulled up another image, "is thalassin. Look at the protein sequences in the 3rd and 7th chromosomes." Marcus squinted. They looked nearly identical to his untrained eye. "They're the same? Not identical, but remarkably similar. More than similar, complementary."
Oh.
Jaina's excitement was building, the way it always did when she made a discovery. "Marcus, our species didn't just share a common ancestor. We were specifically engineered to be compatible with each other." "Engineered? By who?" "The architects, probably. The same ancient race that seeded half the humanoid species in this sector." She pulled up a star map, highlighting 2 systems at opposite ends of a spiral arm. The Lhasa and Corvel 4 are separated by nearly 200 light-years. But during the Great Expansion 30,000 years ago, they were both frontier worlds of the same empire. "So you and Vessa are like cousins." Jaina laughed, a sound like wind chimes. "More like sisters from different mothers. Our species diverged when the Architect's empire collapsed, but we retained the core genetic framework. That's why the children responded to her so strongly. Their DNA recognizes her as kin on a fundamental level." Marcus absorbed this, his mind racing. "Does Vessa know about this? I doubt her world kept the historical records that mine did. Most thalassin culture focuses on oceanic adaptation rather than stellar heritage." Jaina set down the tablet and took his hand. "Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest." His stomach tightened. "Okay. Are you attracted to her?" The question hung in the air between them. Marcus's first instinct was to deny it, to reassure his wife that she was the only one he wanted. But Jaina deserved better than comfortable lies. "Yes," he admitted quietly. "But it doesn't change how I feel about you. You're my wife, the mother of my children. I love you. I know you do." Jaina's thumb traced circles on his palm. "And I love you. But I'm also attracted to her, Marcus. From the moment I saw her, I felt drawn. Like meeting someone you've known your whole life, but only just encountered." Marcus stared at his wife. "You're attracted to Vessa? Is that so surprising? Corvalli don't have the same rigid views on gender and partnership that many human cultures do. We bond with individuals, not demographics. Our traditional family structures often include 3 or more adults, especially when genetic compatibility is this strong." "You're saying?" "I'm saying that what I feel isn't jealousy or threat. It's recognition." Jaina met his eyes. "And I think she feels it too. The way she looks at us, both of us, when she thinks we're not watching." A soft knock interrupted them. Vessa stood in the doorway, her teal hair damp from the sonic shower, wearing one of Jaina's spare sleep shirts that hung loose on her slender frame. "The children are finally asleep," she said. "They insisted I sing them a water song from my home." "I hope that was acceptable." "More than acceptable," Jaina said warmly. "Please, sit. We were just discussing something that involves you." Vessa entered cautiously and settled onto the small couch across from them. In the soft light of the study, her skin seemed to glow with an inner luminescence, and Marcus noticed the delicate gill slits along her neck that flexed slightly with each breath. "Vessa," Jaina began, "how much do you know about the architects?" "The Cedars." Vessa's black eyes widened slightly. "Only myths and children's stories." "Why?" Jaina explained her findings, pulling up the genetic comparisons and showing Vesa the proof of their shared heritage. As she spoke, Marcus watched emotions play across Vesa's face. Surprise, wonder, and finally, understanding. "That's why I felt so comfortable with them," Vesa said softly. "With all of you. I thought I was just being desperate, clinging to the first kindness I'd found. But it's deeper than that, much deeper," Jaina agreed. "Our species were meant to find each other, to combine our strengths. Corvalli bring adaptability and analytical thinking. Thalassans bring intuition and emotional intelligence. Together, we're greater than the sum of our parts," Vesa finished. She looked between them. "But knowing this doesn't solve the practical problem." Marcus contracted with me in good faith. "By the laws of the celestial connections, I have a legitimate claim. But he's already married to you, already built a family. What if there was another option?" Jaina asked carefully. Vesa tilted her head, a gesture that reminded Marcus strongly of Sira. "What option?" "On Corval 4, we have a tradition called the tribond. 3 adults who are genetically and emotionally compatible form a permanent family unit. It's not common, but it's legally recognized across most of the Federation worlds." Marcus felt his heart begin to pound. "Jaina, are you suggesting—" "I'm suggesting we stop pretending this is a problem with only 2 solutions." Jaina looked at each of them in turn. "Vesa came here expecting to build a life with Marcus. I'm already building that life. But what if we could build it together? All 3 of us?" Vesa stood abruptly, pacing to the window that overlooked the dark desert. The twin moons were rising, casting silver and gold light across the sand. "You don't know me," she said, her voice strained. "We met hours ago." "How can you possibly suggest I know your kind?" Jaina interrupted. "I saw how you were with the children, how you didn't let your hurt and anger make you cruel. I know your brave you crossed the stars alone for a chance at a better life. I know you're lonely, because I was lonely too before I met Marcus." She rose and moved to stand beside Vesa. "And I know that when I look at you, I feel the same pull I felt when I first met him. Like finding something I didn't know I'd lost." Vesa turned, and tears were indeed sliding down her face, leaving trails of bioluminescent fluid that glowed faintly in the dim light. "This is madness. Your husband contacted a mail-order bride service. That's not exactly a foundation for what?" Marcus asked, joining them at the window. "For love? Maybe not. But it's a foundation for honesty. I was lonely and desperate enough to reach out to strangers. Jaina was stranded on a hostile world when her ship crashed. You sold everything for a chance at a new beginning. We're all here because we took risks, made leaps of faith. And look what it brought us," Jaina added softly. She reached out and gently wiped away one of Vesa's luminescent tears. "I'm not saying this will be easy. I'm not even saying we have to decide tonight. But I am saying that sending you away feels wrong. Doesn't it feel wrong to you?" Vesa's breath hitched. "Yes," she whispered. "When the children fell asleep against me, when you offered me kindness instead of anger, when Marcus looked at me like I wasn't an inconvenience, it all felt right, like coming home." Marcus found himself reaching for both of them, one hand finding Jaina's, the other finding Vesa's. The contact sent a jolt through him, electric and warm. "We don't have to have all the answers tonight," he said, "but maybe we can agree to explore this, to see if what we're feeling is real or just. I don't know, pheromones or genetic compatibility or love," Jaina said simply. "Love doesn't always look the way we expect it to. Sometimes it arrives late, in unexpected forms, and asks us to be braver than we thought possible." "Ah!" Vesa looked down at their joined hands, purple, tan, and teal twined together. "My people have a saying, the ocean doesn't ask permission to rise. It simply follows the pull of the moons. I feel that pull now, toward both of you. It terrifies me." "Good," Marcus said with a slight smile. "If you weren't terrified, I'd worry about your judgment." That broke the tension, and Vesa laughed a sound like bubbling water that made Marcus's chest ache with unexpected tenderness. Jaina smiled too, and for a moment, They simply stood together, three people from three different worlds, connected by chance and choice, and children who somehow knew before the adults did that they belonged together. "So what do we do now?" Vesa asked. "Now," Jaina glanced at the chrono on the wall. "Now we sleep. Tomorrow we figure out the details, legal registrations, explaining this to the settlement council, making sure the children understand. But tonight we just rest together, if you're comfortable with that." Vesa's black eyes widened. "You mean the guest bed is terrible?" Jaina said with a grin. "I know because I assembled it, and I'm terrible at furniture construction. Our bed is large, enough for three, and I think we could all use the comfort of not being alone tonight." "Just sleep," Marcus added quickly, seeing Vesa's uncertainty. "Nothing more and less until we're all ready. This isn't about rushing. It's about not being isolated in our confusion." Vesa nodded slowly. "I would like that. I've been alone in cryosleep for so long that the thought of another solitary night makes me want to weep." They moved through the house quietly, checking on the children one final time. All three were sprawled in their shared bedroom, tangled together in the way of young siblings who fought constantly but couldn't bear to sleep apart. Sierra had somehow claimed all the blankets, while the twins had kicked theirs onto the floor. In the master bedroom, there was a moment of awkwardness as they sorted out the logistics, who slept where, how to arrange themselves without making anyone uncomfortable. Finally, they settled with Marcus in the middle, Jaina on his right, Vesa on his left. The bed was indeed large enough, designed for Corvallis' sleeping habits, which often included extended family members. Marcus lay awake long after the others' breathing had evened into sleep. Jaina's head rested on his shoulder, her antennae brushing his neck with each breath. On his other side, Vesa had curled into herself initially, but gradually relaxed, her hand finding his in sleep. Outside, the twin moons completed their arc across the sky, and the desert sang its ancient song of wind and stone. Inside, three hearts beat in slowly synchronizing rhythm, a new kind of family forming in the spaces between one breath and the next. Marcus closed his eyes and let himself hope that maybe, just maybe, the universe knew what it was doing when it brought them together. Tomorrow would bring challenges, explanations, adjustments, the hard work of building something unprecedented. But tonight, wrapped in warmth and unexpected belonging, the future felt less like a problem to solve and more like a gift waiting to be unwrapped. Somewhere in the house, one of the children murmured in sleep, and Vesa's hand tightened unconsciously around his. Jaina smiled against his shoulder, and Marcus finally let himself relax into the impossible, this beautiful reality of his expanded family. The desert morning would come soon enough, with all its questions and complications. For now, there was only this three souls finding each other in the vast darkness of space, choosing courage over fear and love over loneliness.